Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Please forgive the smoke alarm in the back. I told the homeowner to go fix it. It has not been fixed, so I'll try to cut out as much of it as possible. You might hear it throughout the video. If you are new here, my name is there it goes. If you're new here, my name is Clarice and I just graduated from Poly Pomona about 9 months ago. I moved in there my second year after COVID. So it was my sophomore year and I moved into the dorms. And in today's video, I'm just gonna share a little bit about my experience. Let's just call this your little orientation. I never actually went to orientation because of COVID, but there's not very many Poly Pomona videos out there and I made this video a year ago but never posted it. First thing I'm going to talk about is the living housing situation. You are required to live on campus as a freshman unless you are local. I think that's typically how the CSU and UC system works. Some things may have changed a little bit since this video. For a quick rundown of the housing options and situations that you have, the cheapest one is obviously going to be the traditional red brick dorms. I'll also link all their pricing and chart tables down below. And obviously the more people you dorm with, the cheaper it is, but just be mindful of the room, and anywhere you live you should be taking vitamin C, and you're also required to take vaccines because you're surrounded by other people so often, and you're also in like a kind of like a crammed situation. Those dorms have a single, double, and triple option. I would take a look at those rooms. I personally did a double and I think that's the typical. Triple and singles are not very common, but just be mindful of that and what you prefer. From my friends experiencing the dorms, they are a little bit older. There's not as many people in those dorms as the new dorms that they just built, I think in like 2023 in 2021 I believe. Some key takeaways from friends that I knew were in those dorms was that it's a little bit far from the dining hall center point. Some people don't like eating there anyway, so that's completely up to you. But the new dorms and the suites, which I'll get into it later, are very close to it in comparison. The old dorms are right next to the business building, so maybe if you're in business, in agriculture, which is agricultural environmental sciences, it's way up the hill. I'll point it on the map. So be mindful that you have to walk up that hill. I'd say there's kind of like two climbing points. One point is from like the dorms all the way up to the engineering buildings, and then from the engineering buildings all the way up to the bio and environmental science buildings. So these rooms are very small. They're not as nice, but they have a pool table and other such and other kinds of things. I personally have never been in them, but it's just kind of tucked away in the corner of the campus. Your second housing option is the new dorms, and both of these two options are only for incoming freshmen. I was able to do it as a sophomore because of COVID, so they allowed sophomores to live in those rooms. Otherwise you would live in either the suites or the village. So the two main zigzag kind of buildings, it's called Sycamore and I believe Sequoia. To me it is the cleanest option you have possible because they are new, and personally I actually really loved it. So there's 8 people to a bathroom. Each bathroom has 2 shower stalls which have like a whole door. It's not a curtain situation, which is what the old dorms have, so you have some nice privacy there and security. Like no one's gonna like, it's not as nasty, and there are cleaners that come in weekly. I was on the 8th floor and they would come in every Friday, so I would kind of see them, but they're very fast and I liked it. They also have little lockers in there for you to store your stuff, but some people just kept it in their room and then brought it over. Something that happens though is that the lights automatically shut off. So if you are in the shower and there's no motion happening in the bathroom, and I'm talking about like outside of the shower, the lights will literally go off. And I found a trick. If you just clap like once really loud, it will trigger the sensor. I'm not sure the technology behind it. That kind of prevents you from having to like go out completely naked in the middle of your shower and like wave your hand around so that the light will turn on. Something I will note is that you do need your key card for everything. If you leave your dorm room, you need your key card, which is your Bronco ID card. You need this to go into the bathroom, to go into the building, to go anywhere, so make sure you always have that on you. The study rooms are really nice in there. They have smaller ones and then also larger ones that kind of are like a living room. It is right next to Center Point. It's right next to a few eating areas. The Bronco Student Center, which has a couple food options like Subway, Starbucks, and hibachi, and like a knockoff Chipotle. And it's also a little bit close to the gym and next to the suites as well, so this is a good option. Something to know also is that each floor, depending on I think what you put on your preference, when you move in you have a whole preference sheet so that they can kind of match you on what floor, what roommate to be combined with. That's like room heating settings and like the type of noise environment you like to be in at certain times, what time you go to bed, stuff like that. For me, I lived on the 8th floor, which was the top floor, and it was just quiet. It was full of like quiet people, which I guess that's what I put on my suggestion. But then there were other floors. Mine in particular was the 4th floor, and it was loud, active all the time. So they do really try to put you together with the same kind of environment. And in these buildings, the kitchen and the laundry room are on the 1st floor. To me, it was pretty good. You have an app to kind of see if the laundry facilities are open. Not too many people cooked in the kitchen. It's kind of a hassle to cook there, to be honest, because you have to like bring all your dishes downstairs and then unpack everything. There is one community fridge that I think they clear out every week, but not too many people use that. Another option for housing is the suites. These are typically sophomore to senior type level people. So these ones are also on campus. They're located near the baseball field, kind of off center from the campus. I had friends in these ones and they really aren't the worst. I think they depend sometimes on the actual room. This one is more of like an apartment kind of layout because it has like a full kitchen, and then the room is split with a living room in between, and there are rooms and bathrooms on the sides. And these ones also come with their own electric oven and microwave, so you don't need to buy one of those, where if you were in the dorm, probably want to have a little mini fridge or a microwave in there. And these ones do not have cleaners every week because it's literally your apartment. For the laundry room for these buildings it's outside of the building. It's located in one room away from all the other rooms, so you do have to walk regardless when you're doing laundry. But I would live here if you want to be on campus and you kind of like the more apartment kind of style. A pro about these buildings is that it's right next to the Brick, which is the Bronco Recreational Intramural Center, something like that. So it's right next to the gym, which is really nice. It's like 3 floors and it has like this nice rock climbing wall. The only thing is that these are a little bit expensive, and for all the dorms, anything on campus, you are required to have a meal plan as well, so you have to pay for those. And if anyone would like an explanation on those meal plans and food options, let me know. Another option that you guys have is the Village, and I lived there for about 2.5 years. I did a double for 1 year. It is kind of like the cheapest option that you have out of all the ones that I've mentioned so far. I have a lot to say about these buildings. So this one's also technically Poly Housing, but it's diagonally across from the campus, so it is a much further walk. Although it's really close to the campus, you still have to travel a good amount. I would say maybe like a 30-minute walk from the Village all the way to the engineering building. I walk pretty fast, so it took me about 20-25 minutes. They do have a bus that comes by, but it's not super accurate, and they have an app showing you kind of where the bus is at the moment and when the next pickup is. It is much faster with the bus, but a lot of people also have just like a scooter or skateboard and travel to campus that way. So these apartments, if you kind of look through some of my videos, you can kind of see how they look. They're definitely not the nicest. A lot of them have carpet. I think some are renovating to floor, which is much better. Unfortunately, in my single apartment, we literally had roaches. Part of that is my roommate's fault. Nonetheless, it still happened. I was not a huge fan of it, but these apartments have an oven, a stove, and a fridge. There is no microwave, so you do need to get your own microwave. A pro for this is that they have free printing. You can do that in the computer lab, but not very many people will stay in the computer lab. These buildings are kind of like separate units. I like to call them kind of like shacks. There's one laundry room that everyone shares at the center of the kind of little campus. Something to note is if you leave your clothes in the laundry room for too long, someone is going to take it out, because it's a shared space and some people don't know really how to time getting their laundry, and other people have stuff to do. So that just happens sometimes. And then after like a week, if you don't get it, we will literally donate your clothes. So don't be that person. A pro of living here is it is kind of like more private, I guess, if you don't really like too many people around you. Parking is closer, because if you're on campus, you have like this huge lot and then you have to walk. For the Village, since the little huts are kind of separated, you have spread out parking, so you're not as far away from the apartment. And then also it is right next to the farm store, so if you want to get some organic Cal Poly groceries, it is a little bit more expensive, but it's not too far from here. And then something to note for all of these options is that there are RAs, which are residential advisors, probably for each floor, each building. It kind of separates where, depending on where you are. So just be aware of that. They are there to help you if you have any issues with your roommates, if you feel in danger or you need something or you need a COVID test. But also they can get you in trouble if you are doing something disturbing to the community. Something also to note is that you do need a parking pass for all of these, and the rates for it are not cheap. I'll also link that. I think it's almost $300 per semester, so just be aware of that. They will ticket you. All of these on-house all these housing options do have like community events. I would say the nicer ones are the ones on campus run by UHS, which is University Housing Services. The ones at the Village are not the greatest. Something to note also is the Village is monthly payments and you do not need to move out during the winter. But if you live on campus, you are required to move out during the winter time, and you do still pay or rent installments that you agreed to in the beginning. You can request an extension, but you have to pay per day that you are staying over the winter break. And that's just because they're not going to leave a bunch of students in the housing during that time when they don't have any school or anything, so you're required to leave. But if you're in the Village, you are paying monthly, so you have the right to stay. So I would also keep that in mind. Another housing option that they just came out with last year is called The Current. I have visited one time, but this might be your best option if you are looking for modernness and cleanliness and more of that apartment lifestyle. To me, it is around the same price as the Village. It is way nicer. I think the Village was built probably in the 1900s, probably in the 90s or even 80s. I'll also link The Current's Instagram so you can take a look at them and see kind of how the housing looks like. They do have their own kind of like little gym, and they have a nice pool and community events. I heard parking is a little bit tricky, and it's also the furthest away from campus, but I believe it's only a mile or two away, and there's also a personal bus that comes around. But also you really have to time maybe an hour in advance prior to your class or when you need to be on campus to get on that bus, just in case. So that's all I kind of have for housing. Some common questions I had on previous videos was the community and socialness of the campus. So it is a commuter school. It's known for its engineering and agriculture. They also have the School of Business, which I think is also nice. Some of my friends have been in those programs. A lot of comments were saying that their parents were worried for them because it's a non-social school, and I can see why some people say that, but one thing I'm going to say is that anywhere you go, any school that you go to, or anywhere in life really, it is what you make out of it. Like, you could be at the most social school and not be part of anything, and that doesn't mean that it's a non-social school. You just need to kind of put yourself out there. And they do have clubs they do have club fairs, they do have Greek life. It is kind of small. I was part of it, and yeah, it may not be as big as schools like UCLA, but it is a way for you to be part of something, part of a club or organization, which I do highly recommend. Also Filipino club, other cultural clubs that you can be a part of, and there's also competitions specifically for engineering you can join, like Concrete Canoe, Design Build Institute, DBIA, or ASCE, which is American Society of Civil Engineers. So really it's kind of where you put yourself. As far as school spirit and all that kind of stuff, I would say it isn't like the school spirit isn't super high at Cal Poly, but I think that's also because it's kind of like an engineering school, commuter school, so it is a little bit quiet, but you can definitely find your group. Or what I would recommend if you're on the fence about it is probably take a visit there. I did not visit because I was not in the area at all, but if you have the opportunity to visit college campuses, I would highly recommend to do that. Something to note, they also do have intramural sports events, so if you want to learn how to rock climb, or I believe they had a flag football team, soccer, volleyball, basketball, badminton, whatever sport you kind of want to sign up for, you just have to go on their little app or website and sign up for those. And I think that's a good way for you to meet people as well. Some people also wondered about the safety in this area, because I think when I also looked it up, it was not the greatest. Like, if you look at the kind of crime rate and all that. Compare it to your own city. That's how I kind of gauge the risk factor, I guess. Again, I would say visit, talk to people maybe if you know in the area. If you don't know anything about the area, Pomona, the actual campus is kind of secluded from any like close neighborhoods. It has a border of the highways, and then like small residential. It actually has, it's like surrounded by, it's right next to the Kellogg. It's right next to the Kellogg land, I would say, where they keep the horses, and they're never gonna do anything with that land because there was a promise, I believe, that that land would not have any construction on it, and it would stay open there for the horses. So the part that the actual campus is in is completely fine. Has there been a homeless person in the dorms? Yes, there was one time, but the RAs and any residents flag it really quick, so I wouldn't worry about that. Only thing that I would worry about is if you are going to go to actual Pomona, which is anywhere down Holt Street, and honestly you wouldn't really go there unless you're probably going to any fraternal parties. That is not the safest. It's just like any other city that has that kind of community. You kind of just keep to yourself and don't bother anyone, and you should be fine. But it is still not somewhere you should be walking alone at night. That's just common sense. So always just be with a friend. Otherwise, I don't see anyone else going there. I would say if you're into cute little things, cute little shops, antique stores, and thrifting, a lot of people go to Claremont or West Covina. Claremont is more like a town vibe, and West Covina is more just residential homes and IKEA and Target and whatnot over there. But if you're thinking of moving somewhere in the area, a lot of people also come from Chino Hills, which is a nicer area. Someone in my previous video asked, how was the dorm life with everyone? Again, I would say this depends on the dorm that you choose and the floor that you're on. I personally met my best friend in the elevator, so you can really meet anyone anywhere. I would say the further up you go, with kind of in the order that I listed all of the housing options, like the more apartment like that it becomes, the more people kind of keep to themselves, I would say, because in the dorms you are just like, no one is really just sitting in the room all day. It's like a very small room with just 2 beds or however many. Typically you're out on campus doing stuff. Also for freshmen and sophomores, you kind of have that social energy and like excitement, so you're definitely gonna see people around anywhere you go. Literally, to get breakfast, lunch, dinner, do your classes, you are constantly surrounded by people, and I would say that the people that I've met have been friendly. And like I said, there's like a study room, living room, there's 2 per floor, kind of one on the 2 wings, one for the males and females, and then 1 floor that's co-ed, I believe. A few floors that are co-ed for the dorms that I lived in. So people would kind of, if you pass by, because you have to pass by them to get to the elevator, so unless you're walking the stairs, you're always going to constantly be passing by that room, and there's typically people in it, so you are constantly surrounded by people. I think that's kind of all I have for this video, but please feel free to leave any comments and I'd be happy to answer. I could also give you a little tips video if you are an incoming freshman and scared and kind of nervous and don't know what to expect. I would love to give some advice, but honestly it is going to be great if you kind of just go in it with an open mind and be open to talking to people. And even if you're not open to talking to people, I'm pretty sure someone is gonna say hi to you or something. You will make friends, so don't let that stop you from accepting to the school or anything. So if you're on the fence, I would just say take a little visit, see if the community kind of like aligns with you and if the school is good for you, and you should be a-okay. Just wanted to say happy admissions, and I hope this video just helped you a little bit to kind of navigate your college freshman experience. Let me know if you guys have any questions. That's all I've got for now, and I'll see you guys in the next video.